It's hard to be a human being in these times, but we have extraordinary tools and extraordinary knowledge to allow us to be. There is beautiful leadership that is allowing us to show up in life. It is that relationship with our body and our mind and our soul. Welcome, dear All That We Are community. It is a joy to be with you again and here with a special episode, which is actually a workshop that I hosted and wanted to share with you. So it's a little bit more practice oriented and has a bit more of a live feel to some of our usual podcasts. Next week, we will be back with a conversation. Earlier in the week, we had this month's Soul Space, which is our main gathering for members of our community that are paying into the monthly membership, which we offer on a sliding scale. And there's a space to come together. In Soul Space, you bring the theme. And of course, the theme that felt really alive was around the news of Russell Brand and everything that it was bringing up around sexual assault and rape and the masculine and the feminine and what it means for people to evolve and change and how much should we be held responsible for things that we have done in the past and how much does something that we have done in the past affect our ability to offer something else today, and everything around the media stories of is it a takedown and cancel culture and all of it, a vast array of complexity that this brought up. And I just felt really honored to be in this community and for the very open, expansive, wide discussion that we had around it, especially when most women have experienced some kind of assault in their lives or some kind of experience of non-consensual or threatening or scary, unwanted attention. And I want to acknowledge that no matter what your views are on this particular story and the ins and outs of this particular person and the women that have been affected, is that when we hear these stories in the media, it can often be quite a triggering, difficult, intense process for everyone, actually, for all women that have experienced something like this, for all men who realize that they may have been perpetrators of something when they were perhaps less conscious of their behavior or under influence of different substances. And for men that feel the pain of the women that have had to be part of this, and part of it really is to do with the world that we live in and the roots of patriarchy and colonization and power over dynamics that have played such a big part of shaping our world. And we do find ourselves in a place where things are evolving and very slowly and not always. And sometimes it's the language and the rhetoric that evolves rather than the actual action and practices. And it's just such a complicated space. And so for anyone that has found this whole story a lot to process, just wanted to offer out some solidarity there and share that we had this really beautiful soul space. And it ended with a healing that was very much oriented in the womb and the sacral area for both men and women, and for the men present in the community to connect to that space of the womb. And it just made me really, really proud of this community and to have a space where not only do we talk and learn and expand our perspectives, but we also do this work, this healing work. And through that, I really believe that as we shift more of our trauma patterns and our ancestral trauma and our cultural trauma, and we enter into a deeper space of clarity within, that we're able to be such anchors of change and anchors of the future that we're creating. Our next soul space will be on Wednesday, the 18th of October, and it will happen before all of the clock changing and all of that. So it will be at 8 p.m. in the UK, 3 p.m. New York, 12 p.m. California, and it will be at 7 a.m. the following day in Auckland. So I hope that you can join us for that soul space. If you're not already a member, please do join the membership and come and be part of this community of practice, of healing, of change, as well as just a community of listening. You know, for me, that part of it is really, 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 really key. In this episode, we're going to explore beautiful leadership. In life, there are many aspects that we can't control and complex systems that we live within. And it's not easy to live a life that feels aligned, where you're growing, serving, and on your path. One place that you can always put your attention is how you show up within yourself to all of what life brings to you and with the global collective. Beautiful leadership includes connecting more truthfully to your own path, unlocking your gifts and ways of being in the world, clearing through conditioned patterns and trauma, uncovering your resilience, understanding energy work, connecting with nature, bringing rituals into your life, finding your way to serve your community, daily embodiment and stillness, trusting your intuition, and living a sacred life. And in this episode, there are two practices. And so there is a movement, somatic yoga type practice, and there's also an energy work practice. So if you are listening and you're driving, then of course, please do skip forward or definitely keep your eyes open and kind of, you know, maybe listen to some of the cues, but don't let yourself fully go into the practice. And then come back to it when you're at home and you can actually do the practices. If you are at home or you're sat under a tree or wherever it is that you like to listen, then please do the practices as they come up and tune into that energy in your body and allow this episode to be an experience of deep embodied listening. For those of you that are in the membership, you can also find the video of this workshop too, where you can watch it and you can watch the practices and take part in them that way. And I've actually, for the members, also edited the practices out so that you can just do the embodiment practice and just do the energy practice as well as separate aspects if you want to keep coming back to them. And you can download the video of this workshop until Sunday by going to the All That We Are or the Amisha websites and clicking on events, and then you'll see a link to the workshop replay. You can download it there. And if you click on the information either about the mentoring on amisha.co.uk or the event of the mentoring, you can book in a one-to-one call. And the mentoring will begin the first week of October. So the 2nd of October, the rest of this week and next week, there's an opportunity to do a resonance call and see if this is right for you. In this episode entitled Igniting Beautiful Leadership, Redefining Our Inner Power, we explore the burning question: how can we align ourselves with the possibility and intelligence that lives inside of us? And you will also hear from a couple of the beautiful leaders that have completed the mentoring recently. I hope that this episode opens up something for you and sparks some realizations and resonance and creates more space and clarity in your very being. Welcome to All That We Are with me, your host, Amisha Ghadiali. On this show, we explore the weave between activism, the sacred, creativity, and regeneration, the spaces where our inner and outer worlds dance. From healing trauma to nature connection, to new technologies to ancient wisdom, it's time for us to move beyond silos and into an integrated way of being. Every one of us has ideas and personal experiences to share that can lead us to a more beautiful future. Despite the challenges we face as a global community, or the pressures we meet in our daily lives, when we stop and dare to listen, to ask ourselves the big questions, and to share what we are already doing and envisioning, we create the futures of our wildest dreams. And we begin to embody all that we are becoming, and all that is possible. Welcome, dear ones. It's so lovely to have this opportunity to come and share a little bit about beautiful leadership, and also really to have a moment to be in practice together. I'm really, really, really reminded that it is that relationship with our body and our mind and our soul that is beautiful leadership, that is allowing us to show up in life and really show up in the best way that we can in that moment, to also be in a space where we know who we are and we know what it is that we need. There is an aspect of beautiful leadership that is so much about living a life where you're really clear on who you are and what your gifts are, and what it is that you're here to offer the world, what seeds you have in you that need to be planted and watered, that have information that can allow you to live with so much more fullness and with grace. And for me, this path of beautiful leadership is really living in a way where you're connected to you and to your path. And it doesn't necessarily mean that life's always going to be easy. In fact, it's probably guaranteed not to be, because if your life is easy, then amazing for you. But it's probably that you have an enormous amount of privilege that is protecting you from the world in which we live. And it's not that privilege is something to feel any kind of shame or guilt around. It's just something that can be oriented into serving the bigger collective picture. And so I feel that all of us that are here, that are able to spend this kind of time together, and that are in this culture where you even know that you can come and show up into this space, we all have a certain degree of privilege that we can offer into the world. And one of the ways in which we can do this is to make our systems as safe for others as possible. Do you ever have that experience where you go into a space, or you meet up with someone and you can feel that their nervous system's really frazzled, and then it starts to kind of frazzle yours a bit because we're so entangled and interconnected, and we can't always not have a frazzled nervous system, but we can sometimes, and we can choose to pay attention and to nurture our nervous systems so that when we walk in a room, we actually allow everyone else in that space to sigh and come into that space of safety and relief. And that's the space where our intuition and our creativity and our gifts can fully thrive. That's really part of the invitation with beautiful leadership. It's how can you live your life not as a follower, not copying other people, but really anchored into who you are, as well as doing what you can with the traumas that you've experienced, that have been experienced in your ancestral lineage, the trauma that's here in this collective field, so that you can show up with as much freedom, really. And I say freedom because I say freedom really because, these words sort of thrown around in the spiritual and the well-being and the kind of Instagram world, but that is what a spiritual practice is really about. It's a path of liberation. And it's not to liberate into this space where everything's always amazing, but it is to liberate ourselves so that we can enjoy this life as much as possible, that we can bring the beauty of who we are into this world. And it's really interesting with this part around comparison. And it's something that I've been reflecting on a lot recently. And I feel like it's so entrained in our culture. It's kind of, who can you copy? Who can you be like? Who's paved the way? And actually, it can lead to quite a kind of toxic, unsafe energy, is so disempowering. Because when we're trying to be like someone else, when we're trying to do what they're doing, we then miss all of the unique bits of us and what it is that we can offer. And so there's this part in the Bhagavad Gita that talks about how it's better to live your own karma well than live someone else's badly. And living someone else's badly might mean that you make millions of dollars and that you're really successful, but you know it's not really what you're here to do. And living your karma well means that you're showing up for what life is presenting to you, to what your unique challenges and gifts are, that you're really showing up with this beautiful responsibility. And I want to reclaim like responsibility as something that is just like utterly gorgeous. Like it's gorgeous to care for other beings. It's gorgeous to care for this world. It's beautiful to know that we have that capacity within us and that we can live in this really beautiful balance of showing up for ourselves and showing up for other human beings and for the more than human world, and that we have capacity to do both, and that that can be a relationship. And sometimes that means going really far in one direction and really far in another direction to find that place of balance. And in this time that we're in now, most of you have been through so much already and been exposed to so many trainings or practices or lineages or psychology and different kind of ways of understanding yourself, that this is a time of coming into that balance and doing even more of that subtle work, and that subtle work that can allow you to sort of effortlessly live who you are. One of the teachers that I was with many years ago now, probably around 10 years ago, we were working together energetically one day, and he saw this energy in me, and he was like, gosh, it's like you're always looking to other people's paths, like trying to work out like how have they done that, what are they doing, how can I do that? And then we realized it was almost like an energetic program. He was able to shift it, and in doing so showed me how to. And I've been amazed at how many people, even like really amazing people that like make a living out of authenticity, that when I like tune into that bit, I'm like, oh yeah, that still in that program. And I want to offer that that shift is possible, and that shift is possible on like a really deep energetic level, as well as the mind level, as well as all of the other levels. And so what I'm going to invite us to do is some practices here and now that are going to connect us to the extraordinary magnificence of our vagus nerve. And so our vagus nerve is the nerve that connects our mind, our brain, our head, our intuitive crown receiving faculties to our hearts and to our guts. And so this part of us is so important, and it's really a part of us that is alive in breathing, in digestion, and also is responsible for whether we're in that kind of fight or flight space, or whether we are in a more open, rested, embodied energy. Okay, so I'm going to ask you all to close your eyes and place your left hand on your heart, your right hand on the earth. And take these breaths here in this mudra to connect to yourself in this moment, to how it feels to be here in this space, to how it feels to be here on earth today, wherever you find yourself, to how it feels to be in your body. And let your breathing soften and deepen. Breathing into these centers, breathing into your gut, your belly, your sacral solar plexus, breathing up into your heart, up into your brain, and exhale through the heart into the belly. And continuing these breaths in your own time, in your own space, your own pace. And now breathing down from the sky above. So you're inhaling from above, bringing that breath through your head, into your throat, your heart, your belly, and into the earth. Exhaling from the earth back up through your spine, through your central channel, and now up into the great skies. Now we're going to bring our voices into the space, singing this very simple and beautiful song, which you can join in with as it feels familiar. Home, I'm coming home, I'm coming home, 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 where I belong, where I belong, where I belong, long, long. Home, I'm coming home, I'm coming home, home, where I belong, where I belong, where I belong, long, long. Home, I'm coming home, I'm coming home, where I belong, where I belong, where I belong, long, long. You can gently open your eyes and come to sitting on the floor. So you might need to give yourself a bit more space and space in front of you. I'd like for you to extend your legs out in front of you and pull your toes towards you. And then bringing your hands to your hips and just bringing your hands then onto your kidneys, the back of your body. Just thanking your kidneys for all that they do. Move your hands back around to your hips. And then gently reach forward, keeping your spine here in integrity. Placing your hands wherever feels comfortable. Just make sure that you're drawing your toes towards you so your feet are flexed. And breathe here. And now we're going to do one. You can relax for a moment where we're not going to worry so much about the integrity of our spine. And so you can let yourself reach, let yourself fold forward and really feel that awakening down the backs of your legs here. And let your head drop down and breathe. And release. And you can bring your feet together now with your legs, your knees down, and take a few breaths here. And lift your arms and draw your hands back so your heart comes forward. Breathing here into the space of your heart. And out through your fingertips, so you're feeling that expansion of your wings. Release. Shoulders back. And then forward 3 times. And come to standing up. I'm just going to let yourself just shake that all off. Shake your hands one at a time. Legs. And through your whole body. And lifting your arms out wide again and expanding them back. Bring your feet in a hip width apart. Really root into the earth. So placing your feet really firmly onto the ground and hugging your shins together. Pushing your thighs out. Breathing into the earth and bringing that breath up into your heart and out through your fingertips. You can feel your power here, your wingspan. And then gently lifting your arms up to the sky and folding forward. And gently rising your hands into prayer in front of your heart. Okay, and now coming back to sitting. I just wanted to spend a little moment just allowing us to get into our bodies and to activate the power of our vagus nerve. And so everything that we just did then really allows us to come into a parasympathetic nervous system space, into that rest and digest space, into that space of safety in our bodies. And I love that some people, including Resmaa Menakem, call the vagus nerve the soul nerve, because it really allows us to activate the power of our souls through connecting the gut, the heart, and the brain and all of our consciousness, so that we can live in a way that is so beautifully connected to the truth of who we are. Yeah, there's a lot out there in New Agey kind of space that talks a lot about how we can control our own reality and how, we can basically manifest these like perfect lives. And I really want to speak into that space of where that's not possible and tell you that you're not failing at life, like you're living your life, that life is full of challenges and opportunities for growth. And I share this because, having also been, in this world and of the kind of spirituality that we have at this time, I feel like I've wasted so much time, like trying to, doubting like myself and why I haven't been able to create something in a certain kind of way. And really that doubt it's so disempowering, and it stops me from being able to really, really live my life. And at this point, I've stopped questioning that, and I've recognized that all of our lives look different and we can't exactly know why. Yes, it's to do with social economic situations. It's to do with race and body shape and where we've lived and what we've been exposed to. It's to do with the trauma that's carried in our bodies through our ancestors. It's to do with what it is that we're here to bring to the world and what it is that we have to learn in order for that to fully come into an embodied understanding so that we can give to this world the truth of who we are in a way that is really in alignment. That life really is about how we show up for all of this and being able to show up in a way of grace and resilience and trust, even when things are really, really challenging. I speak as somebody that is constantly going through really, really, really challenging situations. Currently, that includes, the parent that is still alive going through a degenerative neuro condition. But in the past, it's included multiple near death experiences in my early 20s. It's included witnessing the death of a really close friend. It's included community trauma, all kinds of trauma. And we don't really need to go into it because we've all got stories of things that we're carrying. But what I have learned is not how to create my own reality, but how to grow from every single thing that I experience and how to keep showing up with love, with possibility, with joy, with openness, with a cheeky laugh, and, sometimes with some really big tears, and knowing that that's all part of it. And it's really in a space where it's kind of beyond like quick fixes or kind of sound bites, but actually my offering is to offer something deep and resonant that's full of transmission that actually speaks to ourselves as a healer, which, is not always an easy word to claim. It often is a desirable thing for those that aren't really on that path. And those that are on the path know that it involves so much letting go and so much opening. And so for me, this was offered as a very clear part of my path through the near death experiences that I had. I was pretty much forced, I would say, to open a box I didn't really want to open. And then when I opened that box, it was like, okay, like there's all of this information that we all have access to that is part of the unseen world that we're not tapping into. I was in a tradition in a spiritual group, which was a little bit like X-Men training. And it was really interesting because I remember the mystic that was leading us saying, you all want to be the same. Like you all want to be like gifted in the same way as somebody else that's already there. But what power are you missing by trying to be like that? What happens if you actually open up your own power and the possibility that lives inside of you? And so some of you will know that I wrote a book about intuition a few years ago. And that in itself was such a big kind of ask, like, how do you explain the unexplainable? How do you find a way to share some keys that will unlock something in everyone that reads it? And for me, that's what this path really is. And that's what it is to hold space for other beautiful leaders to come into being, is to live so fully on my own path that creates a space of inspiration and possibility, and that then to be able to hold space for your deepening and becoming and refining, because so many of you are so deep on along the way of who you are and what you're offering and how you're living your gifts. But there's always more, right? There's always like more. And it gets even more interesting when we just go, when we've done like the really big traumas and we've had the whole big life shifts. And then we're in that space of like something that's more subtle, yet we're able to get into like the bits of programming and conditioning that are more subtle and that really, really impact the ways in which we are and that can really limit how we show up. And so that's what I want to share a bit about in this space and invite that space of refinement. And so, for me, the offering into the space, it's like, let's not do the kind of we're all broken, we all need fixing kind of energy. Like, let's not do the like, I'm going to show you like a methodology with a trademark that you can learn how to do, and then you can do what I do. Let's actually be so like real with each other and come into a space where it's like, how can you be more of who you really are? And for me, what I've learned is that practicing this expansion and contraction part of life is so necessary for that. And really allowing ourselves to be in the spaces that are darker and that are ickier and that are painful, and not to do it in a way that feels where we're forcing or we're striving or we're wallowing. And so it's actually just finding this like very subtle place of knowing when to take shelter, knowing when to be in the cave, knowing when to like let the information, the darkness, the pain, the processing to happen, letting ourselves live in a way where we are affected by life. We're affected by the things that happen, by the world in which we live, the collective issues that we face, how challenging it might be that we let ourselves grieve, that we let ourselves grieve things that have happened to us or that we see. What I've noticed is that those moments of darkness, they can always sometimes creep up when there is a bit more space. And so we have this propensity to immediately want to dissect everything. Like, what's wrong? What's happening? Why am I being like this? I'm meant to be like this. And, we kind of should ourselves into like needing to be a certain way. And what I found is like, how when you go to sleep, your body is doing all of this like intelligent work. And sometimes you might wake up feeling a bit sad. And our reflex is often, what's wrong? Why am I waking up like this? I was fine yesterday. And like to go in a whole like spin and like, but I'm in a good time and like this shouldn't be happening to me right now. And like, oh, what does it mean? And maybe it's this and maybe it's that and maybe this is wrong. And what happens if it's actually like nothing's wrong, but you're actually in a space where you're no longer just surviving. You're no longer just getting by. And so actually the intelligence of your body and your system is clearing something. You know how what your physical body heals when you sleep. So does your emotional body and your spiritual body. And so sometimes it's like you might wake up and feel a bit sad, but it's almost just like a burp. It's just like some energy that needs to move through. And if you don't get so attached to the story and what's wrong, like you might find that it passes in not a very long amount of time, allowing ourselves to be in that space of darkness. Because when we're in that space of darkness, when we come back into the light, we've normally learned something, we've normally garnered something. I went to my osteopath this week and I'd gone to her 2 weeks ago, and she just kept saying, gosh, you're very different to how you were 2 weeks ago. You've moved through this fast. And I was like, yes, the cycle of contraction and expansion, contraction and expansion. Just because I was feeling a certain way like 2 weeks ago doesn't mean I have to feel like that now. And then, of course, what has always happened is that when that expansion happens, it's like more rooted, it's more extraordinary, it's more embodied, it's more in alignment. And that wingspan gets just a little bit wider. One of the things that I'm experiencing in my life is that like life's not getting easier. Like actually the conditions around life are getting harder in lots of ways. And so I am being asked to tap deeper into my resilience, to tap deeper into the empowered possibility that I am. I was with some friends at a gathering recently, and one of them I had done like a workshop week some years ago, probably about like 8 years ago or something, like a week's workshop where you do all this sort of deep spiritual, psychological, emotional work. And we'd been in the same group and we hadn't really seen each other much since then. Something happened in this moment and it was hilarious. I couldn't find the people that I was looking for in this big crowded place. And he looked at me and he said, Amisha, I'm pretty sure you've got at least 26 more difficult things happening than this in your life right now. And I was like, I have. And they're just creeping into this moment right now. And I'm experiencing some of those things in this moment of not being able to find the people I'm trying to find. And then they were just like, do you need a cry? And they both just like hugged me. And it was a man and a woman. I just had a really good cry. And the woman is also going through a lot at the moment with a parent that's dying. And he said, and I still just have all of the problems that I'm creating for myself in my own head. And that's hard. And so let's just acknowledge that it's hard to be a human being, and it's hard to be a human being in these times. But we have extraordinary tools and extraordinary knowledge to allow us to be. And so when we also step away from that space of also like needing to be something for show, like, don't you find our culture so showy with the Instagram, or even like if you go to a yoga class or something, everyone's like looking at everyone else's mats and like in a way that can just sometimes just feel really uncomfortable. And for me, it really made me just want to take everything back inwards after a while and share less in that way. Obviously, I've kept sharing the podcast because for me, that's like this deep, intimate space. But my intuition kind of took me there. It's like there's something around this culture that takes us away from like the power of what these practices really are, and being in that sacred devotional energy, being in that space where we allow ourselves to trust our intuition, to show up for ourselves and to show up in this energy of devotion. And for me, so much of that comes through a practice of chanting mantras, of being in my body, and also of lighting candles and, like bringing that devotional energy, those prayers into life. And it also comes from acknowledging that there will always be bits of childhood trauma that are coming up. There will always be bits of ancestral trauma that's coming up. There will always be aggressions and microaggressions and people triggering this. And actually sometimes me walking into a space with a beautifully expanded nervous system will trigger the fuck out of everyone else in the space, because they'll be like, huh, why is she like that? And then I'll be like, that's the reality of living in this beautifully entangled world. And so within that, how do we keep coming back to ourselves and coming back to ourselves and taking that opportunity to constantly be healing what we can in this really gentle way, in this way that's so kind and gentle and expansive with ourselves, and yet understands the importance of it. We are in this culture where like everyone does a training and then suddenly they're a teacher and they're offering stuff and then they're out, and it's a lot to hold without like the backing that we all need, without having really beautiful mentors, without having lineage holders, without having teachers. And so for me, like having those mentors, having those safe people that I can go to, that I can cry to, that I can talk about like the stuff that is imperfect, and where I can actually draw the connections between something that happened when I was 8 with something that happened to my grandmother to something that I'm, that I'm feeling in the field, and actually get to remove the trauma of that energy. It's really such an incredible thing. And I feel like often I'm asked, what's the difference between a trauma response and intuition? And of course, like we can never exactly know, but what we can know is that the more that we show up for ourselves in the way of clearing as much trauma as we can and doing things that strengthen the connection that we have with ourselves, then the more that we were able to trust ourselves and trust the way that we show up and know that it's always going to be a work in progress, that we are always going to be a work in progress, that we're always open for more growth, that we're always open for more support, and that we can always be lifting someone else up in the process. And for me, that's why the work that we're going to do a little bit of, so you can experience some energy work in a moment, this energy work that I offer, it's not something that I learned from a trademarked training. It's not something that I was even shown directly how to do. It's something that I was with incredible, beautiful, mystical people whilst in very deep processes of opening myself. And a teacher actually helped me to understand that I could go and talk to a tree, and that a tree could guide me. And then he also guided, he checked what I was doing. And I learned this way, which I guess the only way I can explain it was more that it was uncovered rather than learned. And I feel like we've all got so much within us to uncover and to allow to express itself, and to express itself outwards and inwards and in all of the ways. And so what this process is it is around clearing trauma patterns from the energetic system. So most of you will know that we operate mostly from our subconscious. And so as much as we can study things, it doesn't affect our behavior, as is evident when you meet people that are highly intellectual, not embodied, and that they might be able to say things, but their behavior is very, very different from what they're able to say. They might be able to quote whole verses of sacred texts and whole chapters of psychology books, and then like behave in a completely different way. And why is that happening? That's happening because most of our behavior is coming from our subconscious, and that subconscious is formed during the first 7 years of life. So we have all of this patterning that happens in those 7 years. And you don't have to have had like an outwardly ridiculously horrendous and traumatic childhood in order to be somebody who might find that that alignment between the conditioned mind and spirit's guidance and our subconscious is like it's not a straight line. And that's because we live in a culture that just does not really respect us as human beings, as spiritual beings, as sacred beings, as precious beings, as beings with gifts, with space for all the unseen beauty that exists in this world. And so the cultures in which most of us were raised have had elements of, squashing certain aspects of us whilst really watering others. And so you can imagine, for those of you that have ever delved into gardening, I'm not yet a gardener, but I have delved into peace lilies, and I'm quite good with peace lilies now. And so what I've found is that if I know what the plant is that I'm growing, that I'm nurturing, I'm able to nurture it. But if you give me some seeds and I have no idea what they are, and I don't know what they need, what kind of conditions they need planting in, what kind of sunlight they need, how much water they need, what they need to be next to, or what other plants might overtake and destroy them. If I don't have that information, then I can't plant those seeds. And so all of us humans, we come into this world with a whole sack of seeds. And these seeds are all of the qualities that we are. And there's loads, there's probably thousands of them. And the ones that get planted are the ones that the gardeners around us, our parents, our teachers, the dominant societal conditioned pattern, like way of being, they understand those ones. So they're able to plant those ones. And I would say you will have a few rogue seeds that just sort of manage to plant themselves and go enough to make you live a life where you felt maybe slightly at odds with everything that was going on around you. But there's more. There's always more. And so what I offer is a practice of clearing some of the patterns and planting some of these seeds. And I do it in a way where it's like the gift that I have is being able to see and clear the patterns and being able to plant the seeds. The gift that the seeds have is that they themselves contain energetic information. So that seed is going to then teach your cells, your body, your mind what it is. And in that process of it teaching you, it becomes an embodied part of who you are. So your part in it is to actually give space to listen to the seeds and to let them expand and root and guide you so that those qualities then really are you. One example that I've always given about this is that if you knowing something with your mind, like if you know, okay, I don't have enough self-worth or I don't really trust my intuition, but I'm going to read a book about it. I'm going to do, and then I'm going to, and you kind of feel it for like an hour or so, but then it doesn't have anything to hold on to. And you find yourself like back in the same situation or reacting the same way in a way that, doesn't feel really in alignment. And so this process of embodying these seeds, it really anchors that power into who you are and what it is that you can offer. And then the seeds, like, what's so beautiful is that then they take you on this whole journey. And you find that through your dreams, through your writing, through your vision and what's rising through your body, that your gifts get more and more activated. And then you end up being able to do something that I could never do. And I don't want to teach you something that then blocks you from really like becoming who you are. And so the offering that I have here of beautiful leadership, of the one-to-one mentoring, is to offer a space where every session we are doing this really beautiful, subtle, and powerful one-to-one work where we're clearing through trauma patterns and we're planting seeds. And then it's held in this space of ritual. And these are rituals that you show up for every day during that time. Because we all know some of the things that we need to do. And some of it is really, it's the same for all kinds of things. I've been reading a lot recently about brain health and how we keep our brains healthy as we get older. And one of the key things is water. Another one is dancing. And we know that dancing is also, key just to be connected to our bodies and to be connected to our soul and our spirit. And we know that we need to drink water because we know that half the time, if we're in a bad mood or we're feeling like the world's ending, we are probably just dehydrated. And so what's really good is that during this time, we anchor some of these practices, and they might be practices that you're already doing. They might be practices that you're not doing, but you mean to, or that you have done, and then they've slipped out. And it's a space where we really, really anchor these practices. And actually with the water, there's a really beautiful water blessing that we do every day that really activates the water, and also the prayer for the global waters alongside the power of what the water is to you and how the water can nourish you. And so there's these practices of movement, of stillness, and also through the power of ritual. It's been amazing, like the addictions as well, that people that have worked through this process have been able to let go of. Had like somebody let go of smoking after like 40 years of smoking in like one session, just because we did this really beautiful ritual around it as well. And then within this kind of container, it was quite easy to shift it. And that's what's possible when we have like support, when we have that anchoring and mirroring and that paving of possibility. And that's really what I offer through all of my work, through the podcast and through my book and through one-to-one work is just like holding space for that possibility of who you are and inviting more of that possibility into being. Let's take a few breaths here together. And we're going to come into a practice, into an experience of this energy work. When I do this work in groups, which I do with the soul space for all the members of All That We Are, we often just see if there's a theme. And I feel like here the natural theme is around like showing up as ourselves, for ourselves, and with that for all of life. And so I just want you to feel into what blocks are present there, either around something you want to let go of or something you want to call in on this theme. Okay, so everyone close your eyes, and you're welcome to either sit up tall or to lay back. I'm going to take a deep breath here to clear our fields. Inhale and release. Inhale and release. Inhale, release. We're going to work together in the space of the third eye. And so, this center for intuition, for seeing what's really there. The first thing we're going to do here is we're going to integrate the trauma of the fear of being found out as being wrong. When we're working in a group space, it might be that you only have this like 2% and someone else has it 100%. We're working together to shift this for all of us. Okay. So integrate the trauma of the fear of being found out as being wrong. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, release. Integrate the trauma of the fear of being seen to be living in your power. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, release. Integrate the trauma of the fear of being lost and needy and unable to live your own truth. Take a deep breath in and release. The first seed that we're going to plant here is permission to live a life of integrity and alignment. Permission to live a life of integrity and alignment. Expand it through every cell of your being. Openness to living my gifts. Receive it and expand it through every cell. Permission to live an empowered life of purpose. Expand it through every cell. Clearing your fields. And now bringing into close. So just see this golden elixir coming down through your crown. Love and light and rejuvenation. Let it flow into every part of your being. Nourishing and charging up every cell. Now just drawing your energy field in a little bit tight around your body. Feeling the connection, your sitting bones to the earth. You can wiggle your fingers and hands a little bit and very gently open your eyes. I'm going to send you these seeds and you can water them and nourish them for the next 6 weeks. And you do that by breathing into them. These are not mind affirmations, these are energetic codes of information in these little seeds. So you're going to breathe into them and you're going to feel them expanding into your space and you're going to let them speak to you in however they do. You're going to make space for them to speak to you and show you what they mean for you, show you what it fully means for you to live with these seeds embodied. And it's a beautiful practice, doesn't have to take very long. And so for those of you that are interested in doing this work on a deeper level, we can look into wherever the icky spaces are. Like maybe there's abusive relationships that you've been in, or family trauma that you haven't really addressed, or ancestral information that's coming through, or things just aren't quite landing in yourself, like whatever it is. And we can work with these things over a period of 3 months. It's a really beautiful container. The process is somewhat mystical as well as pretty organized, because I do have a Virgo moon, despite being a Pisces daydreamer soul. And so part of what this process is it's connecting you more truthfully to your own path, unlocking your gifts and ways of being in the world, clearing through conditioned patterns and trauma, uncovering your resilience, understanding energy work, connecting with nature, bringing rituals into your life, finding your way to serve your community, daily embodiment and stillness, trusting your intuition and living a sacred life. And it all kind of happens in a, in a non-linear way. And hopefully the space that we've been exploring now is enough of a reminder of all of those things, But if you do feel that call to go deeper, I am opening up a new round of mentoring. So what you can do is book a call with me. And the offering at the moment is sessions that are an hour and 15 minutes with them, thinking of actually expanding them to an hour and a half, be the same price, but just wanted to bring more actually embodied practice into those sessions. I also offer soul space for members of All That We Are, which is on a sliding scale. It starts at £7, and we kind of come into a group space and we do this work. But now I offer one-to-one sessions, like one-off ones with this work. I'm in a process of maybe changing everything. So I say for now, because I've kind of, I'm having a little moment of checking into like what feels the most in alignment, and also, yeah, it just means that I'm kind of, that there's also some really nice boundaries around the offerings that I'm making. And for those of you that aren't interested in those things, that's all good. I hope that you receive something from here. But do either make a donation to All That We Are for what you've received here, or write a review, or share the podcast with 20 of your friends, or go write a review on Amazon for intuition, or tell someone to listen to the audiobook. Do something to say thank you to this energy, which has come through me, and isn't just me, but it's come through me to you. And so do something that honors the respect of that, so that the energy can anchor. Because I feel like we're all kind of in this weird late stage capitalism thing, figuring it out together. And so it doesn't have to be an extortionate thing, but definitely an act of that honoring and receiving is really, really welcome. And yeah, it's been really just gorgeous to spend a bit of time with you. One of the things I'm also thinking about offering is like a kind of weekly embodiment session. We'll see how that all moves, how that comes through, because it's feeling quite alive as a nice offering, just to sort of connect, because the podcast is like, you're there with me, but I don't get to see or hear you in the process. So it's nice to have more of those spaces. And that's also what the All That We Are community membership is as well. It's a kind of space where we can come together a bit more. So if you're interested in the mentoring, please only book a call if you're like really interested and you can afford it, because it's just one space where I can't manage like the bursary conversations. And I really don't want anyone that's coming to me like in a sort of either desperate place, or a place of like, you've just like sold your mum's bed in order to pay for it. Like, come when you're ready, when it feels good, when you have the resources, because then we can kind of like really do the deep work. And I just don't really like all of that weird dependency, fear, manipulation stuff that's in this space, and want to be able to offer in a way that is like, yeah, that we all need like support at different parts. We all need people that can hold space for us and highlight things. And it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. You're wonderful. And I, hopefully can offer something that's supportive even more of that blooming and that unfolding. And so, yeah, thank you, everyone. And yeah, much love.
I'm Lucy, and I am based in North Wales. And yeah, it really has been something that has gone deeply within me. And yeah, it's been such a beautiful process. I started it at a time when I had been in a space of lacking confidence in my life, and that'd been for a little while after the pandemic. And what Amisha has helped me to see are those things that I have the potential inside of me to be able to activate, and that I already have in me as well, but I just need to nurture through her seeds, which she encourages a ritual practice each morning to connect with your seeds. That for me has been a go-to, really, in a way that other programs or mentoring, or I have done coaching before, so yeah, I can compare it, and other therapy and healing modalities that I have done. And this has really just been such a beautiful experience, and it's been something that I do feel that I can take away with me, that is integrated as part of me, which I don't always feel in other settings when I've done other courses and training. So yeah, it's been a really beautiful experience, and I do feel like I've been reconnected with my purpose. Some of those seeds that Amisha planted with me, and that I've been watering, and it's that practice of watering them, which is just so lovely and so important. I've been able to reconnect with some of these things that I'd felt had gone missing in me. And what I really, really value and I think is quite unique in Amisha is that she has a way of really listening deeply to what it is that you need and who you are. I felt like Amisha really knew me and we'd only really known each other for a short time. And I just felt really held and really cared for, especially around some really vulnerable things that Amisha did, go away and did some research about and helped me with. So yeah, it has been life-changing. It's been at the most important juncture for me recently. Yeah, it's brought me back together. It's been something that I can continue to integrate into my life because I have these seeds to go to. And not only that, I did find the sessions so healing. The conversation felt like I could talk very freely. And then there would be the energy healing, which was, I could feel it within me. But I also had this sense of fun and playfulness, which I really value. And that I found really was an extra sparkle for me. I find Amisha very compassionate and I can connect, and I'm sure many, many others do too. So thank you.
This is Jane Carr. Mentoring with Amisha has allowed me to inhabit a new reality in these 3 months. I feel the realness in my body that my visions matter, that I'm capable of creating them in a way that's beautiful to the earth and other people, and that I can trust the emerging process of it all. I went into the mentorship wanting to believe these things, and I came out feeling them and embodying them as real. Amisha's unique energy work with seeds is an amazing catalyst for healing and growth. I always felt that my seeds each session were just what I needed and actually just what I was longing for. And I love the opportunity to work with them in the following weeks. I've been raving about and recommending this mentorship to everyone in my life who has a beautiful vision because I want to see them succeed and flourish and feel supported and be helped by someone who has such an effective way of working with beautiful leaders.
Thank you for listening. We hope that you have enjoyed this episode and it has sparked some inspiration and creativity in you. As always, you can find links to everything we mention in this episode, download our book, and discover so much more over on allthatweare.org. We give space to our guests to share their perspective without debating it or fact-checking, as this approach allows for deep, unedited conversations from the heart. We trust your discernment and wisdom to take what is useful and challenge what isn't in your own understanding. We offer spaces for discussion and integration in our membership community, which we would love for you to join. We don't believe in selling you things you don't need through this podcast, and so it's made possible by you, our beautiful community. If you loved this and would like to connect more deeply with us, please join our membership. You choose what you contribute based on our sliding scale, and you become a patron whose support makes this podcast happen, as well as receiving access to a library of many resources and invitations to nourishing events. Please also hit subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen so others can find us. This podcast is made by an all-female global team. Me, Amisha Ghadiali, producer and host, Anna Greta Folderbach, who crafts the words that accompany each episode, and Mary Chan, who edits the sound so skillfully. All That We Are celebrates all that we are already and the untapped potential that lives inside us. It invites the full power of the more than human world, nature, the unseen, our ancestors and our future generations. It reminds us that we never exist in silo, through borders, timelines, or polarity, that in each and every moment, all that we are is here.